Anna sat on the edge of her bed, legs swinging as she hummed a melody that had been stuck in her head all morning. Her voice, soft at first, began to rise with confidence. The notes flowed effortlessly, like a gentle stream, filling the small room. Her mother, Donna Rita, paused outside the bedroom door with a laundry basket in her arms. She closed her eyes, soaking in the sound of her daughter singing. That voice, Donna Rita whispered to herself with pride. It's going to take her somewhere someday. Anna didn't notice her mother listening. She was too lost in her own world, her voice carrying stories the way her heart always knew how. At just 13 years old, Anna had a gift. Singing wasn't just something she did, it was who she was. In their quiet neighborhood, people often joked that Anna could sing the rain out of the clouds or lull a baby to sleep with just a hum. When the final note drifted away, Anna stopped and smiled. "That's the one," she whispered, scribbling the song title in her notebook. She had been preparing for this moment for weeks. The solo audition for the school's Christmas choir. Every year, the choir performed for hundreds of parents and community members. Landing the solo was a big deal. Donna Rita's voice broke through her thoughts. "Breakfast is ready. You'll be late. Coming May." Anna tucked her notebook into her backpack and ran out, nearly knocking over her little brother Miguel on the way. At school, the buzz in the hallway was louder than usual. Posters for the Christmas concert hung on every wall. "Auditions today," they read in bold, bright letters. Anna's friends greeted her excitedly. "You ready for the solo, Anna?" Pedro asked, flashing his usual mischievous grin. "You've got this." Anna felt her cheeks warm. "I hope so. I've been practicing every day." "Practicing?" Another girl, Clara, chimed in with a smirk. "Some people don't even need to try that hard." Clara was tall, blonde, and always seemed to stand at the center of attention. Her family was well off and well known in town, which only added to her confidence. She had been the soloist for the past 2 years, though anyone with ears knew her voice wasn't anywhere close to Anna's. Anna brushed off the comment. She wasn't here to compete with Clara's attitude, just to sing. The music room was crowded when Anna arrived for the audition. Students filled every chair, chattering nervously, while the choir teacher, Mrs. Marcia, stood by the piano. She clapped her hands. "Quiet, everyone. We'll begin in just a moment. Remember, this solo is a chance to shine, so give it your best." Anna gripped her notebook tightly as Mrs. Marcia started calling names. One by one, the students stepped forward and sang their pieces. Some faltered under pressure, others seemed unprepared, and a few received polite nods from Mrs. Marcia. Finally, Anna's name was called. She stood, her heart pounding, and walked to the front of the room. She could feel the eyes of her classmates on her, but when she looked at Pedro, he gave her a quick thumbs up. "You may begin, Anna," Mrs. Marcia said, her tone curt and businesslike. Anna closed her eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and began to sing. Her voice rang out, filling every corner of the room. Each note was clear, steady, and full of emotion. The song was a Christmas classic, but Anna's delivery made it feel fresh and alive, as if no one had ever heard it before. When she finished, there was a moment of stunned silence before the room erupted into applause. "That was amazing," someone whispered. "She's going to get it for sure." Anna returned to her seat, her heart lighter now. She caught Pedro's eye again and he mouthed, "Told you so." When the auditions ended, Mrs. Marcia stood to address the room. Her expression was hard to read. "Thank you, everyone, for your hard work today," she said. "I'll be announcing who gets the solo tomorrow." Anna felt a mix of relief and nervousness as she walked home after school. Pedro jogged to catch up with her. "Anna, you crushed it." "You think so?" "I know so. There's no way anyone else comes close. Not even Clara." Anna smiled, though deep down, a small voice told her not to get her hopes up. Life didn't always play fair, and she knew it better than most. When she got home, Donna Rita was waiting at the door. "How did it go, May Wilmore?" "I think it went well, May," Anna said softly. "The teacher will tell us tomorrow." Donna Rita pulled her into a hug. "You have a gift, Anna. No one can take that away from you." Anna nodded, but as she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, her stomach still twisted in knots. Tomorrow would tell, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. The next morning, Anna woke up before the sun rose. The house was still quiet, save for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the wooden floor. She stared at the ceiling, her heart racing in anticipation. Today was the day Madame Marcia would announce who would sing the solo for the Christmas concert. She sat up and glanced at her clock. 5:30 a.m. Too early for breakfast, but too late to fall back asleep. Pulling her notebook off the bedside table, she began to hum softly, jotting down lyrics that came to mind. Music always calmed her, a friend that never failed her. As the house came alive with the sounds of her family starting their morning routines, Anna forced herself to eat breakfast even though her stomach was still tied in knots. "You look nervous," said her younger brother Miguel, chewing loudly on his toast. "Leave your sister alone," Donna Rita said firmly, pouring herself a cup of coffee. "She'll do great today." Anna smiled weakly, taking a small sip of juice. "Will I even get the chance?" She wondered silently. At school, the air was thick with anticipation. Posters for the Christmas concert now seemed brighter, the words "grand solo performance" practically screaming at her. Students huddled in small groups, whispering about who they thought would win. As Anna entered the classroom, Pedro immediately waved her over. "Did you sleep at all?" he teased, pointing at the dark circles under her eyes. "Barely," Anna admitted, dropping her bag onto the desk. "Don't stress so much. You killed it yesterday. Trust me, you've got this." Before Anna could respond, Clara strode into the room like she owned it, her ponytail bouncing with each step. "I hope everyone brought tissues today," Clara said, loud enough for the room to hear, "because you're all going to cry when you see me on stage." A few students chuckled, but Anna noticed the look Pedro shot Clara, one that clearly said, "Don't push it." Anna sighed, resting her chin in her hand. She tried to drown out the noise and chatter around her, but her thoughts kept looping back to the audition. Had she done enough? Had Madame Marcia really noticed her? The bell rang, and everyone filed into the music room. It was as though all the air had been sucked out of the room, replaced with tension. Students fidgeted in their chairs, their whispers barely audible. Madame Marcia entered, her clipboard tucked under her arm as always. "Good morning, everyone," she said briskly. "Before we begin today's lesson, I know you're all eager to hear the results of yesterday's audition." Anna's heart pounded in her chest. She clasped her hands tightly in her lap, as though trying to hold herself together. Madame Marcia cleared her throat. "First, I want to say that I was very impressed with the effort you all put in. Choosing the soloist was not an easy decision. There's a lot of talent in this room, and you should all be proud The compliments drifted over Anna like a distant hum. She couldn't focus on anything except what was coming next. "And now," Madame Marcia said, glancing at her clipboard, "the student who will perform the solo in this year's Christmas concert is—" A heavy silence fell over the room. Anna squeezed her eyes shut. "Clara," gasps and murmurs spread through the class like ripples in water. Anna opened her eyes, stunned. She turned to Pedro, whose expression mirrored her shock. Clara stood up, her smile wide and triumphant. "Thank you, Madame Marcia. I'll make sure it's a performance no one will forget." Madame Marcia nodded, completely unfazed by the reaction of the class. "Congratulations, Clara. Now, let's get started with rehearsal." Anna felt a lump rise in her throat, but she swallowed it down. She refused to cry. Not here. Not in front of everyone. The rest of the rehearsal passed in a blur. Clara sang the solo over and over, her voice loud and clear, but it lacked the soul and warmth Anna knew she could have brought to it. Every note felt wrong to her ears, like something precious had been stolen. After class, Pedro caught up to Anna as she stuffed her books into her bag. "Anna," he said quietly, "this isn't fair. Everyone knows you're better. Clara doesn't even come close." Anna shrugged, her face neutral, though her heart was anything but. "It doesn't matter, Pedro. Madame Marcia made her decision. But just let it go." Anna's voice cracked as she zipped her bag shut. "Please." Pedro fell silent, his frustration clear, but he didn't push her further. At home that evening, Anna tried to focus on her homework, but the events of the day replayed in her mind like a broken record. Donna Rita noticed immediately. "What happened today, Anna?" she asked gently, sitting beside her daughter. Anna hesitated, staring at the floor. "Clara got the solo, May." Donna Rita's face hardened, but she kept her voice calm. "Did Madame Marcia listen to you sing?" Anna nodded. "Yes, but it didn't matter." Donna Rita pulled her into a hug, smoothing her hair softly. "Sometimes life isn't fair. But listen to me, Anna. Your voice is special. You don't need anyone's permission to share it with the world." Anna clung to her mother, blinking back tears. "I just wanted them to hear me." "They will," Donna Rita whispered. "One way or another, they will." As Anna lay in bed that night, her mother's words echoed in her head. For the first time that day, a small spark of determination lit inside her. Maybe May is right, she thought. Maybe this isn't the end. The next morning, Anna walked to school with her head down, her backpack feeling heavier than usual. She replayed the events of the day before like a broken record. Clara got the solo. Clara got the solo. The words felt like tiny daggers in her mind. The streets were full of life as always. Kids laughing, cars honking, vendors setting up their stands, but Anna didn't hear any of it. All she could think about was how she'd been overlooked, how no one had spoken up for her. At the school gates, Pedro was waiting, leaning casually against the wall. When he spotted her, he pushed himself upright and joined her as she walked in. "You okay?" he asked softly. Anna forced a nod. "Yeah, I'm fine." "No, you're not," Pedro said bluntly. "You're still thinking about it." "How can I not?" Anna muttered, her voice sharp with frustration. "I practiced so hard, Pedro. I know I sang better than her, but none of it mattered." Pedro paused for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "Maybe you didn't get the solo, but that doesn't mean your voice doesn't matter. You're the best singer here, Anna. Everyone knows it, even Clara." Then why did Madame Marcia pick me? Anna shot back, her voice trembling. Why do I always feel like I have to work twice as hard just to be seen? Pedro sighed, not having an answer. Instead, he gave her a supportive nudge on the arm. Come on, let's get through today. We'll figure something out. The music class was unbearable. Clara was front and center, basking in the spotlight as she practiced the solo repeatedly. Each note, though technically correct, felt empty to Anna. She tried to focus on her own harmonies in the back row, but her voice faltered every time Clara hit the high notes. At one point, Madame Marcia paused the rehearsal. Clara, can you give us more energy in the chorus? It's still feeling a little flat. Anna bit her tongue to keep from blurting out the truth. It's flat because she doesn't mean it. Music wasn't just about hitting the notes. It was about feeling every word, every beat, deep in your soul. But Clara's performance was all show and no heart. Take a break, everyone, Madame Marcia announced. As the students scattered, Pedro caught up to Anna, who was quietly putting away her sheet music. This isn't over, he whispered to her. What are you talking about? Pedro glanced around to make sure no one was listening, then leaned closer. I recorded you singing during the auditions. I still have the video on my phone. Anna's eyes widened. You what? Look, Pedro said quickly. I wasn't trying to invade your privacy or anything. I just wanted to prove a point. You were incredible, Anna. If people saw this, they'd know the truth. Anna shook her head, her face turning red. No, I don't want you posting that. It'll just make everything worse. Why? Pedro asked, genuinely confused. You deserve to be heard. It's not that simple, Pedro, Anna said quietly, her voice almost breaking. People like me, we don't always get the chance to speak up. And when we do, they don't always listen. Pedro frowned, but before he could respond, Clara's voice cut through the air. What are you two whispering about? She asked smugly, approaching with a group of her friends trailing behind her like shadows. Nothing, Anna replied quickly, turning to leave. Clara wasn't done, though. You know, Anna, she said, her tone syrupy sweet, I hope you're not too upset about the solo. I mean, it's not your fault. Some people just aren't cut out for the spotlight. Pedro stiffened beside Anna. At least Anna doesn't need to fake it. He shot back. Clara's smile faltered for a split second, but she quickly recovered. Jealousy doesn't look good on you, Pedro, she retorted before flipping her ponytail and walking away. Anna tugged on Pedro's arm. Let it go, she muttered. No, Pedro said firmly. This isn't right, Anna. You're better than her, and you know it. Everyone knows it. Knowing it doesn't change anything, Anna replied softly. Just drop it, Pedro. Please. That evening, Anna sat on her bed, staring at her reflection in the window as the sun set outside. The words Clara had said echoed in her mind. Some people just aren't cut out for the spotlight. Was she right? Maybe Anna didn't belong there. Maybe it didn't matter how good she was. Maybe she was destined to stay in the background forever. A knock on the door startled her. Come in, she called. Her mother entered, holding a plate of cookies and a glass of milk. You didn't eat much at dinner, Donna Rita said gently, placing the plate on Anna's desk. Thanks, May, Anna murmured. Donna Rita sat on the edge of the bed, studying her daughter. You're still thinking about the solo, aren't you? Anna nodded. I just don't get it. Why didn't Madame Marcia pick me? I know I was better. I felt it. Donna Rita took Anna's hand in hers. Sometimes people don't see what's right in front of them, but that doesn't mean you stop shining. You hear me? Your time will come, Anna. You just have to keep believing in yourself. Anna blinked back tears. What if it never comes? Her mother smiled softly. It will. You'll see. As the room grew darker, Anna lay back on her bed, staring at the ceiling. She thought about Pedro's video, about how unfair everything felt. Maybe Pedro's right, she thought. Maybe it's time for people to hear me. A flicker of determination lit up inside her. The following morning, Anna woke up with a new determination bubbling inside her. The words her mother had spoken the night before echoed in her mind. Your moment will come, Anna. You just need to keep believing. For the first time in days, she didn't drag herself to school. Instead, she held her head up high as she walked through the familiar streets. But the determination came hand in hand with hesitation. She thought about Pedro's video. Was sharing it really the right thing to do? As she entered the school gates, the morning chatter of students filled the air. She spotted Pedro waiting by the old oak tree, his signature backpack slung lazily over one shoulder. When their eyes met, he tilted his head, giving her a knowing look. You look like you've made up your mind, he said as she approached. Maybe, Anna replied cautiously. But if we're going to do this, it has to be on my terms. Pedro grinned, relief washing over his face. I knew you'd come around. Let's set the record straight. Anna held up a hand. Wait, I don't want this to be about revenge, Pedro. I don't want to drag anyone down or make a scene. Pedro raised an eyebrow. So, what's the plan? She hesitated for a moment, choosing her words carefully. If we post a video, it's because I want people to hear me, to see what I can do, not to hurt anyone else. Pedro nodded, understanding the seriousness in her voice. I get it. It's not about them. It's about you. Anna gave a small smile. Exactly. The lunch bell rang later that day, and Anna sat at her usual table with Pedro, her heart pounding in her chest. He had spent the morning editing the video slightly, cutting out any unnecessary chatter or background noise to focus solely on her performance. You sure about this? Pedro asked one last time, holding his phone out in front of her. Anna looked at the screen. The thumbnail was a frozen image of her standing in the middle of the auditorium, eyes closed, mouth open mid-note, completely lost in the music. I'm sure, she whispered, barely recognizing her own voice. Pedro pressed the upload button. The video went live. For the first few moments, nothing happened. It sat there, another small blip in the endless sea of internet posts. Anna watched the screen nervously, her palms sweaty. What if no one cares? She asked, half to herself. Trust me, Pedro replied confidently. People are going to care. The rest of the school day felt like a blur. Anna tried to focus on her classes, but she couldn't stop thinking about the video. By the time the final bell rang, Pedro practically ran up to her, his phone in hand and his face lit up. Anna, it's happening. What's happening? She asked, confused. He held up the screen. The video. Look. Anna's eyes widened. The video Pedro had posted had already racked up thousands of views. Comments flooded in, and people were sharing it like wildfire. Messages like, who is this girl? She's incredible. This voice gave me chills. Why isn't she the soloist? This doesn't make sense. Her heart raced as she scrolled through the endless praise. People were noticing her. People were listening. Pedro, she whispered, stunned. I told you, he said proudly. I told you the world would care. But not everyone was thrilled. By the following morning, the video had gone viral. Teachers, students, and even parents were talking about Anna's voice. People she didn't even know were stopping her in the hallway to compliment her. You're famous, Anna, a younger student said in awe as she passed by. Even Clara's friends seemed unsure how to act around her now. They whispered behind their hands as Anna walked into the music room for rehearsal. Madame Marcia stood at the front of the class, looking noticeably less confident than usual. She tapped her baton against the podium, trying to settle the restless group. Settle down, everyone. Let's focus on our rehearsal. Anna took her usual place in the back row, but she felt every pair of eyes on her. Her classmates murmured to each other. Some shot her encouraging smiles. Others, like Clara, sent icy glares. Madame Marcia cleared her throat. Clara, let's start with the solo again. As Clara began to sing, her voice wavered slightly. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't strong either. The energy and confidence she had flaunted earlier were nowhere to be found. Her voice faltered under the weight of everyone's expectations, and Madame Marcia quickly stopped the performance. Clara, the teacher said, trying to sound patient, you need to project more. Let's start again. Anna bit her lip. She didn't want to be the cause of Clara's nerves, but deep down, a small voice in her mind whispered, that's supposed to be my solo. Rehearsal ended on an awkward note, with Madame Marcia unable to get the choir back on track. Anna packed her things quickly, ready to escape the tension, when she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to find Madame Marcia standing behind her, looking unusually uncertain. Anna, the teacher began, her tone softer than usual. Can I speak with you for a moment? Anna froze. Of course. Madame Marcia led her to the side of the room, away from the other students. I saw the video that's been going around, she admitted, her voice low. Anna felt her breath catch. Oh, Madame Marcia hesitated, wringing her hands. Your performance, it was remarkable, Anna. You truly have an extraordinary gift. Anna blinked in surprise. Thank you, she said, barely above a whisper. The teacher took a deep breath. I might have misjudged the situation. I think perhaps I didn't give you the chance you deserved. Anna stared at her, unsure how to respond. Madame Marcia straightened her shoulders. I'll make this right, Anna. I promise. As Anna walked out of the music room, her heart pounded in her chest. For the first time, it felt like the door she had been pounding on for so long had finally opened. Just a little. But she couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. The following days were a whirlwind for Anna. What had started as a small act of defiance, posting a video of herself singing, had turned into something much larger. The attention was overwhelming. It wasn't just her schoolmates or random people on the internet who were noticing her talent anymore. She started receiving messages from local radio stations, music blogs, and even a few prominent figures in the music industry. Anna could hardly keep up with it all. She woke up one morning to the sound of her phone vibrating incessantly. Her heart skipped a beat as she saw multiple notifications. It was from Pedro. You won't believe this. Someone reached out to you. Anna opened the messages and nearly dropped her phone in disbelief. A famous music producer, Javier Almeida, had sent her a message saying that he had seen the video and wanted to speak with her. And it wasn't just about speaking. He wanted her to sing at a New Year's Eve event that would be broadcast nationwide. Her mind raced. "This is unreal," she quickly replied, her fingers trembling. "Mr. Almeida, I'm so honored. I would love to talk. How can I prepare for this?" The response came almost immediately. "Let's set up a call. I want you to perform live for me. If you impress me, the offer will stand." Anna's mind was spinning. She was about to perform on a national stage. A chance like this didn't come to anyone. She couldn't afford to mess it up. She began practicing nonstop, revisiting old songs and learning new ones, refining her technique. She was determined to be perfect. The call with Javier Almeida came the next day. He was kind but direct, his tone suggesting he was serious about finding raw talent. Anna felt both excited and nervous as she spoke to him. "Let's hear you sing," he said. After a brief introduction, Anna cleared her throat and took a deep breath. She closed her eyes for a moment, remembering the way music made her feel. She started with a song she knew well, a classic ballad that her mother used to sing when Anna was younger. Her voice filled the room, steady and sure, the vibrations of each note ringing clear and strong. The melody wrapped around her, and for a moment, she felt as if the entire world had faded away. Javier didn't speak immediately after she finished. Anna held her breath, waiting for his judgment. Finally, he spoke, his voice calm but firm. "That was impressive. I can hear your potential. I want to give you a chance." Anna couldn't believe it. Her heart raced as she fought to maintain composure. "This is real. I'm really doing this." "Thank you," she whispered, still in awe. "Listen," Javier continued, "I'll send you the details soon. We'll have a rehearsal. But I need you to be ready. You'll be performing live in front of thousands, maybe even millions on New Year's Eve. Can you handle that?" Anna's voice wavered slightly, but she didn't hesitate. "Yes, I can do this." The rehearsals were intense. Every detail, every note had to be perfect. Anna met with Javier and his team, and she quickly realized that this wasn't just a chance for a performance. It was an opportunity to prove herself as an artist. She spent hours practicing, making adjustments to her vocal techniques, and rehearsing in front of a mirror to perfect her stage presence. Every time she stepped into the rehearsal space, she was reminded of how far she had come, from the girl who had been humiliated by her teacher to this moment, standing at the precipice of something huge. Pedro continued to be her biggest supporter, offering words of encouragement when she needed them most. "You've got this, Anna. Just remember, don't overthink it. Let the music carry you." As the days passed, Anna found herself becoming more and more confident. The weight of the national spotlight didn't intimidate her anymore. It pushed her to be better, to be stronger, to believe in herself. On the night of the performance, Anna stood backstage, feeling the nerves stir in her stomach. The entire production was huge. She could hear the muffled voices of the audience through the thick curtains. The bright lights on the stage felt like they could burn through the fabric of the world. When it was finally her turn to take the stage, she took a deep breath. This is it. No turning back now. She walked out, the spotlight hitting her face as she stood before a massive audience. The crowd's reaction was immediate, applause ringing in her ears. Anna stood there, frozen for just a moment, taking it all in, and then, without thinking, She opened her mouth, and the music flowed through her. She sang as if she were alone in the room, her voice powerful and vulnerable at the same time. She poured every ounce of herself into the performance, giving it all. Every note felt like an echo of her journey. The struggles, the heartache, the dreams she'd fought so hard to hold on to. The performance was flawless. When it ended, the applause was deafening. Anna couldn't believe it. She had done it. Backstage, the team erupted in cheers. Javier was the first to greet her, his face beaming with pride. That was beyond what I expected. You've got an incredible future ahead of you, Anna. You've just proven yourself. And in that moment, Anna realized that this was only the beginning. The next day, Anna was flooded with messages of congratulations. The video of her performance had gone viral, and the world was now watching her. Interviews started rolling in. Record labels expressed interest. And the biggest surprise of all, she received an offer, a full scholarship to a prestigious music school. As Anna sat with her mother that evening, holding the scholarship letter in her hands, she couldn't help but smile. The path ahead was still uncertain, but she was ready for it. She had found her voice, and now the world would listen. The days following Anna's performance were a blur of excitement. Her phone was constantly buzzing with messages, emails, and calls. Each notification brought something new, an opportunity, a connection, or a reminder of how much had changed. She had gone from a girl barely noticed in her school's choir to an overnight sensation. Everyone seemed to know her name now, and she was trying to keep up with it all. She didn't have much time to bask in the limelight, though. There was something much bigger on the horizon, a scholarship offered to one of the most prestigious music schools in the country. The reality of it all hadn't fully hit Anna until she sat down to sign the acceptance papers. The scholarship was everything she had dreamed of, but it also meant leaving behind the life she knew, the friends, the familiar streets, and the small school that had watched her struggle. Anna couldn't help but feel a twinge of fear, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of determination. This was the next step in her journey. She had worked too hard to get here, to turn back now. The transition from her small town to the bustling city where the music school was located was nothing short of overwhelming. She arrived in the city with her mother, carrying only a suitcase and a heart full of ambition. The city felt like a different world. The streets were crowded, the buildings towering above her like giants, and everything moved so fast. It was a far cry from the quiet life she had known, but Anna was ready for the challenge. Her first day at the school was a whirlwind of introductions, orientations, and meeting new people. She was one of the few students who came from such a humble background, and she could feel the eyes on her, curious, judgmental, and full of questions. She didn't let it faze her. She had learned to tune out the negativity a long time ago. What mattered now was proving herself in this new world. During her first week, Anna met her new roommates, Lena, a confident girl from a wealthy family, and Sophia, a shy but brilliant pianist. They were kind, welcoming, and seemed excited to have her around. Yet, Anna couldn't help but feel out of place at times. The luxury, the ease with which some of the students navigated this new life, made her question if she truly belonged here. But when she stepped into her first music class, those doubts faded. The music room was her sanctuary. It felt like home, as if every note she played or sang was a part of her own soul. The instructor, a renowned opera singer named Madame Dufresne, immediately noticed Anna's talent. She was tough but fair, pushing Anna to reach her full potential. "You have a rare gift, Madame Dufresne said after Anna's first performance in class. "But it's raw. We'll need to polish it. You're capable of so much more, if you're willing to work for it." Anna nodded eagerly, grateful for the guidance. She had always known she could do more, but here, under the guidance of professionals, she knew she could push herself further than she ever imagined. The weeks flew by, and Anna threw herself into her studies. She practiced late into the night, her voice growing stronger and more controlled with every passing day. She was still learning the intricacies of technique and performance, but she was determined to catch up. Each setback only fueled her drive to succeed. She couldn't afford to fail. Not now, not after everything she had worked for. It wasn't long before Anna caught the eye of one of the school's most influential music producers, Mark Matthews. He was known for discovering young talent and helping them navigate the music industry. One afternoon, he visited her class to listen to the students perform. When Anna's turn came, she stepped up to the microphone, her nerves a distant memory. She sang with everything she had, her voice filled with passion and emotion. Afterward, Mark approached her, a look of approval on his face. "I've been following your progress," he said. "You've got something special. I want to work with you." Anna was speechless. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for. "I think you have the potential to be more than just a great singer," Mark continued. "You could be a star. We need to talk about your future in this industry." That evening, Anna sat in her dorm room, trying to process everything that had just happened. A part of her still couldn't believe it. She had gone from being the girl who was told she wasn't good enough for the school choir to being sought after by a music producer. It felt unreal, but at the same time, it was the culmination of everything she had worked for. Her phone buzzed again. It was a message from Pedro. "I'm so proud of you, Anna. You're doing it. Don't stop now." Anna smiled, her fingers hovering over the screen as she typed a quick response. "I won't. I'm just getting started." The next few months were filled with rehearsals, recordings, and more performances. Anna was juggling her classes, her vocal lessons, and the new expectations that came with being a rising star. She was tired, but she had never felt more alive. One day, after a long rehearsal, she sat down with Lena and Sophia to talk about her future. They were sitting in the dorm common room, sipping tea and discussing the future. "Do you ever get scared?" Sophia asked, her voice soft. "Like, what if it doesn't work out? What if you're not good enough?" Anna thought about it for a moment, then shook her head. "I'm scared, sure, but I've come too far to turn back now. I know what I'm capable of, and I'm not giving up." Lena smiled. "We're all rooting for you, Anna. You've got this." As Anna continued to rise in the music world, she never forgot the lessons she had learned along the way. Her journey wasn't just about becoming famous. It was about proving to herself and to everyone who doubted her that she was more than just a girl with a beautiful voice. She was a force to be reckoned with, and with each passing day, her dream was no longer just a dream. It was becoming her reality. As the months flew by, Anna's life became a whirlwind of rehearsals, performances, and meetings with producers. Her success was growing, but so were the expectations. She had gone from being a shy, overlooked student to one of the most sought-after young talents in the music world. Every opportunity seemed to bring her closer to the dream she had nurtured for so long. The producers who had once shown interest in her were now lining up with offers and contracts. They saw in her not just raw talent, but a story of resilience, of someone who had fought against the odds to make it. Anna was no longer just a girl with a beautiful voice. She was a symbol of perseverance, and that meant something in the cutthroat world of entertainment. But with the newfound attention came a new set of challenges. Anna was no longer just performing at school concerts. She was traveling, recording in studios, and even headlining her own shows. Her name was now appearing in magazines, and her music was being played on the radio. Yet, with all the excitement, there was also an undercurrent of pressure. The stakes were higher now. One evening, after finishing a particularly long day in the studio, Anna sat in her apartment, staring out at the city skyline. It was a view she had only ever dreamed of. The lights below sparkled like stars, and for a moment, she felt overwhelmed. The future stretched out before her, full of endless possibilities. But there was also the nagging feeling of uncertainty. Could she keep up with this pace? Could she handle the weight of her success? Her phone buzzed on the table, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from Pedro, her old friend from school. She smiled as she read it. "I saw your latest interview. You're amazing, Anna. I always knew you had it in you. Don't forget where you came from, though." His words hit her in a way she didn't expect. Don't forget where you came from. She hadn't thought about it much lately. The pressure of her new life had consumed her, and she'd been so focused on moving forward that she hadn't looked back. But Pedro was right. She had come so far, but the foundation of who she was had been built in her small town, in the quiet moments of practice and the struggles of everyday life. That was where her true strength came from. She took a deep breath and typed back a response. "Thanks, Pedro. I won't forget. You'll always be part of this journey." The following week, Anna found herself in a meeting with Mark Matthews, the producer who had first spotted her potential. He was sitting across from her, a stack of papers in front of him. Anna had been through several meetings like this by now, but today felt different. There was something about the way Mark was looking at her that made her feel both nervous and excited. "We've got an opportunity for you," he began, his voice calm but with a sense of urgency. "A major record label wants to sign you. They're offering you a deal that could catapult you to stardom." Anna felt a rush of excitement. But at the same time, a wave of uncertainty washed over her. She had always dreamed of this moment, but now that it was here, she wasn't sure if she was ready. "Why me?" Anna asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What makes me different from all the other talented singers out there?" Mark leaned forward, his eyes intense. "It's not just your voice, Anna. It's your story. People connect with you. You've been through more than most people can imagine, and that's what they see in you. Your music isn't just music. It's a message. You're going to inspire millions." Anna sat back, absorbing his words. She had never thought of herself as an inspiration to anyone. She was just doing what she loved, but Mark was right. Her journey, the struggles she had faced, had become part of her art. It wasn't just about singing anymore. It was about telling her story, sharing her heart with the world. "Take some time to think about it," Mark continued, pushing the papers toward her. "This is a huge decision, and it's yours to make. But I believe you have the potential to change the game." Anna nodded slowly, still processing everything. She had always dreamed of having the chance to make it big, but now that the opportunity was before her, the reality of it was both thrilling and daunting. Later that evening, Anna sat with Lena and Sophia in their dorm room, the weight of the decision heavy on her shoulders. She told them about the record deal, the expectations, and the future that seemed to be unfolding before her. Lena, ever the optimist, was excited for her. "This is your moment, Anna. You've worked so hard for this. You deserve it." Sophia, who was more reserved, seemed thoughtful. "But don't forget what's important to you. I know the spotlight is tempting, but stay true to yourself. Don't let the industry change who you are." Anna listened carefully to both of them, feeling the weight of their words. She knew they were right. The pressure to succeed, to meet everyone's expectations, was immense. But she also knew that the reason she had come this far was because she hadn't compromised who she was. She had stayed true to herself, even when it was hard. After a long pause, Anna spoke, her voice steady but filled with determination. "I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to lose myself in the process. I'm going to keep singing for the right reasons, because it's my story and I want to share it with the world." Lena grinned, and Sophia nodded in approval. "You've got this," Sophia said softly. "We believe in you." As Anna signed the contract with the record label, a new chapter of her life began. The journey ahead would be filled with challenges, but Anna knew she was ready. She had a story to tell, a voice to share, and nothing would stop her from telling it. The future was waiting, and Anna was prepared to face it head-on. The months following the signing of her record deal felt like a whirlwind. Anna found herself constantly on the move, between studio sessions, rehearsals, interviews, and performances. Each step she took in the music world seemed to be leading her closer to something greater. But it also came with its own challenges. The pressure to meet expectations was immense, and she often found herself questioning whether she was doing the right thing. Despite all the noise around her, there was a quiet moment one evening that helped her refocus. She had just returned from a performance in another city, and the apartment she was staying in was nearly empty. Just a small sofa, a table, and the soft glow of the city lights outside her window. She felt a mix of exhaustion and peace. The world outside was bustling, but in that moment, it felt like it was just her and her thoughts. She took a seat by the window and let the quietness wash over her. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Lena, one of her closest friends from the early days in her music career. "I saw the new video. Your performance was amazing. You're killing it, Anna. But remember to take a break when you can. You're doing great." Anna smiled, her fingers hovering over the screen as she typed a reply. "Thank you, Lena. I'll remember. Sometimes it feels like I'm running a race I can't stop, but I'll get there." As she hit send, she leaned back and closed her eyes for a moment. It was easy to get caught up in the momentum of it all, to think that there was no room for pause. But deep down, Anna knew that there was more to her success than just hitting milestones. The music, the lyrics, the voice, it was all an extension of who she was, her truth, and she didn't want to lose sight of that. The following week, Anna was invited to perform at a major charity gala, an event that would be broadcast live to millions of viewers. It was another significant moment in her career, an opportunity to showcase not only her talent, but the message behind her music. She was nervous, but the excitement of it all pushed her forward. The night of the performance, she stood backstage, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the microphone. The bright stage lights blurred the faces of the audience, making it hard to focus on anyone in particular. She could hear the soundcheck buzzing, the orchestra warming up, and her heart was pounding in her chest. "You've got this, Anna." Mark's voice came through her earpiece. "Just do what you do best." She nodded to herself and took a deep breath. This was her moment. No matter the size of the stage or the expectations, she had worked for this. She wasn't just performing for the applause. She was performing for herself, for all the things she had endured and overcome. As the music began, Anna stepped forward, her voice filling the grand hall. Every note, every lyric felt like it had been written for this very moment. She didn't just sing, she told a story. Her story. After the performance, Anna was met with standing ovations, her heart racing from the adrenaline. She could hear the applause, but it felt distant. The energy in the room was electric, and for a moment, she allowed herself to take it all in. She had come so far. The girl who had once been excluded from her school's Christmas choir was now standing on the biggest stages, touching the hearts of millions. Backstage, Mark was grinning from ear to ear. "That was incredible, Anna. I knew you had it in you." Anna was breathless but smiled. "Thank you. I'm just glad I could be real with it." Later, as the event wound down, Anna found herself in a quiet corner, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. She thought about the struggles, the rejection, the small victories, and the people who had supported her along the way. She thought about her teachers, her friends, and most of all, her family. Without them, none of this would have been possible. She took out her phone and sent a quick message to her mom. "Mom, I did it. I'm here." Her phone buzzed back almost instantly. "I know, baby. We always knew you would. So proud of you. Keep going." Tears pricked at the corners of Anna's eyes. But this time they weren't tears of doubt or fear. They were tears of gratitude. She had made it. She had not only proven herself to others, but most importantly, to herself. Anna's journey had just begun, but she knew that it wasn't about reaching the final destination. It was about the steps, the growth, and the understanding that no matter where her career took her, she would remain true to herself. The world had finally taken notice of her voice, but the most important thing was that she had found her own voice along the way. As she looked at the empty stage one last time before heading home, Anna smiled. The future was bright, and for the first time in a long time, she felt ready for whatever came next.